is in his third year coming up here as we start a new football season, and it's amazing how fast it comes around again, isn't it, Coach?
Yes, it is. And then all of a sudden it'll be over.
Yeah, I always looked at it like a 12-week, from conditioning week, 2 weeks to 2-a-days, 9 weeks to try to battle into the playoffs, but you're looking at a 12-week set. And it flew by back when I was coaching. For you guys, you got a little bonus football last year, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Coach Pelham, 40-0 loss last season to start the year against Britton Deerfield. You win your next game, you lose game 3, and then you win 6 straight. And all of a sudden you're 7-2, and you're finally starting to turn that program around and bring it back to its winning ways. What did you learn last year going through everything that you went through during that season?
That confidence is everything. We've talked about that, and I've reiterated it with everybody we've talked to this year that it all comes back to confidence. We had a big setback the first week, and confidence was at an all-time low, and then we came back with a great game, offensively at least, against Springport. But we also learned a lesson there not to let off the throttle a little bit. We had a nice lead on Springport, then we kind of let off a little bit, and they came roaring right back. So, every week if you don't bring something out of it, some kind of lesson learned, what are you really doing out there?
52-51. You survive against Springport, then Reading 38-7. Coach Bailey's tough on everybody, and they got you last year. Then you go into the Quincy game, you win 27-7, then you start rolling, putting up big-time numbers. And there's this narrative out there, a false one, that if you're not running 4 wide spread, you're not a 21st century football coach, and you're not going to score any points. Let me give you some of the point totals that 3-back wing T scored last year. 52 on August 31st, 56 on September 21st. Against Homer, you had 56, 58 against Union City, 57 against Athens, 47 against Vandercook Lake, and then in the playoff game, you put 27 on Blissfield. That 3-back 2 tight end wing T can put some points on the board.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, you can go on any website, any of the high school sports websites, and you look at the Constantines and the Monroe St. Mary's and the Hudsons and Climax Scotts and the Plymouth Cantons. Those kind of schools, look at their scores. They can put up the points. It's a offense that will wear you down, but it's also a big play offense. If you're doing everything right and all 11 guys are clicking, it's really hard to stop.
You had a culture change at Jonesville because they were running a spread style, and there were some of the older kids that were resistant maybe to change and go to a 3-back set, and maybe some people in the community a little bit hesitant to see that as well. But once you got this thing rolling and showed what it could do, did you see that kind of change back?
Yeah, and you have to, because everybody wants to run the spread stuff. Because you see it on TV, you see it at all levels on TV. The NFL runs it. Now they're running spread option, pistol look, even in the NFL and college, and you get to watch that all Saturday, now Thursdays, Tuesdays, Fridays. So you get to see that on TV, so all those kids want to be receivers, they want to be quarterbacks. And then when you come into our system, you got to buy into the team philosophy where everybody's doing their job. And I bring it up to the kids that, if we ran a different system, there'd be a lot of you guys who wouldn't touch the ball. Mm-hmm. Because if you go a spread system, there's 1 back. Now we got 3 backs, but we probably have 15 kids who can carry the ball. And we try to every night. My goal is to get 1 more than we did the week before, total-wise. I think we got up to 16 at one point last year.
Kids touching the football.
Kids with carries.
Yep. That's awesome. Yep. That's exciting. Clay Pelham's the head coach of the Jonesville Comets going into his 3rd year. When you watch a Hudson deep into a playoff run, they're going to get 3 yards on a trap. They're going to get 3 yards off tackle. They're going to get 3 yards in a keep out. And they just keep getting positive yardage, and then all of a sudden they're going to pop one for 60. And it's just staying the course, staying with it, and being patient until you can bust one, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Anytime you go, especially at Hudson, when we weren't making the playoffs, I go watch them. I watched them play Detroit Loyola a few years ago before Loyola got to the finals. And those Loyola kids would hoot and holler and get all excited when they stopped them for 5 or 6 yards, and all of a sudden the next play they got first down. And you could see those kids just looking at each other like, what is going on? Then all of a sudden Hudson's in the end zone. So it demoralizes a team because you think you're stopping them. We kind of did that against Union City last year, had that kind of success where we knew, or I knew as coaching staff, going into that game they wouldn't be able to stop us, but would we stop them?
Within the universe of wing T football, you see a couple of different philosophies. You see a Climax Scott style, which is predicated on great line play, but incredibly gifted faking. I mean, these guys will fake out the cameraman, they'll fake out the radio guy, they'll fake out everybody. You have some other teams that run a T set, but it's more of a power set, maybe blast off tackle type stuff, and not as much of the deception game. Where do you fit on that continuum between faking and power?
You got to have a nice balance between that, because we do love to run the power off tackle, but we want to be able to settle with our trap. We want to get it to where we want it. We haven't over the years gotten to our fullback trap where we wanted to, but our kids know every play, especially in practice, I'm telling them I need good fakes. You better stay double tuck, and that's what we call carrying the ball is double tuck, and our quarterback needs to fake. I tell him like his rear end's on fire. And that's basically the premise of it. Everybody's a little bit different, and every year we watch somebody. Like we picked Constantine this year. We picked them a little bit, and we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But as a wing tee, full house tee team, you have to be able to tweak a little bit here and there every year.
You know, it takes a lot of discipline when you're running down the field, and you hear the crowd cheering, and you want to look and find the ball and find out you got to stay straight ahead. You got to believe that you have the ball even when you don't.
Yep. That's what we tell our kids that are faking. You better score.
Right.
You know, I tell my quarterbacks when they fake out the keeps, I want you to beat that fullback to the end zone if he's running a trap.
Yep. Clay Pelham, the head coach at Jonesville. Let's talk about your kids this year. Who are some of the returning guys that you're looking at having big years for the Comets?
Hopefully we got a lot of them. We got 8 returning on both sides of the ball. We got Tyler Bogner, Colin Edinger in the backfield, Kyle Jones, our quarterback. Basically all of our offensive line. We lost our center from last year and a tight end. So we basically got all those guys coming back. And then I can look at those guys and still look to the future, where I think we only lose 3 from this line going into next year. Well, we got Cody Barnett, who's honorable mention All-State. He's moving to the defensive line defensively. We've got Christian Germain, who's another 3-year senior. We've got 5 or 6 guys this is their 3rd year on varsity. And we got Sterling Ladd. We go every year now where we have 2 senior captains, 2 junior captains, and our senior captains are Kyle Jones and Cody Barnett, who were captains last year as juniors, and then we as coaches pick Jonathan Rodriguez and Sterling Ladd as junior captains, and this will be Jonathan's 2nd year on varsity, and it'll be Sterling's 3rd as a junior.
Wing T coaches love it when their quarterbacks come back. It just makes life easy, but you're doing a lot of work to prepare young Comet quarterbacks for the future. Tell everybody what you're doing with your youth football program at Jonesville.
Frank Keller, my defensive coordinator, has got it started up. The Pop Warner type thing we're playing with, I think, Homer, Concord, and I can't remember who else. But we're starting a lower level, a 3rd and 4th grade team together, and a 4th and 5th, or a 5th and 6th grade team down at the lower levels, so that when these kids get up in the middle school, there isn't that teaching process. Those kids already know what they're doing on offense, and then up to the JV program, then the varsity program. And that's where a lot of Hudson's and Constantines and those teams' success have come from. These kids have been running it since they were 3rd graders. And there isn't much teaching after you get to the high school level. It's just repetitive, and they know what they're doing.
Clay, any young guys who maybe didn't crack the varsity lineup last year that Comet fans are going to see in the mix?
Trent Powers. He's going to be a senior this year. He's going to be our starting fullback. He's got all the talent in the world. He had a few injuries last year that got him behind the 8 ball. When you got 15 kids, one little injury can send you all the way back to that 5th line. But Trent, I think Trent's the one we're going to focus on. Teaching him fullback, he was a halfback last year. He's been a halfback for the previous 3 years. So teaching him fullback, it's a little bit different. Different cuts, different reads. But I think Trent's come a long ways, and basically, our team camp this summer and then the week and a half we've had this year. So we're expecting big things from Trent.
What do you think your team needs to do after a 7-2 season last year, obviously losing some important pieces, but having a lot of guys back? What do you think you have to do to take it to the next level, whatever that is? What do you think the Comets need to do to take it to that next level this year?
Not get lazy. A lot of teams, when their kids are returning, they think, you can see the complacency in the kids where, all right, we're all coming back. We're good. We think we're good. You have to keep almost knocking the kids down. You're not as good as you think you are. We need to improve every day in practice. And that's our big sticking point with them right now, is not to think you're good. Go prove it on the field.
When you see a wing tee humming like you do with Climax Scots or Hudson or some of the other teams that you've mentioned, it's like a machine. It's a well-oiled machine. It's fun football to watch. I think when fans begin to learn it and understand what's actually happening, they really can enjoy that style of football. Go to a Climax Scots game and see if their community is excited about a wing T football team. Go to Hudson and see if anybody shows up to watch the Tigers play. And go to a Comet game this year because they're getting that kind of fan support now with the 7-2 season, making it to the playoffs last year. I have to believe, Clay, had to be really big for your program last year.
Oh, it was huge. Going into the season, we really didn't have that expectation. We were looking for 5 wins, to be honest with you. So anything above that was a bonus, and that's what it was. And the confidence again. Well, even after Reading, that was a big loss, but we played well for a half, especially defensively, which we didn't play well defensively all year. But we did against Reading for a little bit. But for those kids to rebound, come back, play a Quincy team who now runs the Full House T as well, and actually take it upon themselves to kind of show them how it's run, and that's how they went into that game. And then it just steamrolled from there. The kids were like, wow, you could just see their faces light up that we can do this.
And even your playoff game, I mean, Blissfield had a solid squad last year. That was a battle, 36-27. I mean, that was a good ball game.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you were just, hey, we made it. Okay, you guys really fought them.
Yeah, and we learned lessons from that. We learned that we needed to get stronger because Blissfield pushed us around. And there was times where we stopped. We knew what they were going to do. That Blissfield program's been doing the same thing for years, and that's how they had all the success. Just like us, hopefully 10 years down the line, teams are still saying, well, we know what they're going to run. We just got to stop it. And, we stopped it here and there, but not enough. And they just pushed us around, and kids took that and needed to get stronger, and they have.
Coach Luma, Coach Langs, about half the games they play every year, they could scream over the PA system, we're running fullback trap, and teams couldn't stop it.
Yep. We have that philosophy where, hey, you know what we're running, stop us.
Yep, try to stop it. In the commitment level, you talked about the fact that you've got 30 kids on varsity, 30-plus kids on the JV level, over 60 kids involved in Jonesville football, and we're talking about the rest of their buddies who aren't on the team, watching Maury Povich eating potato chips on the couch all afternoon, right?
Yep.
And your kids are from 3 to 8:30. They're busting their tails at practice, and it is a commitment. And, you're seeing some schools really struggle. Article in the paper today about this. Some schools really having a hard time getting kids to come out. Now, Jonesville's enrollment is way up there now, so that helps. But, you've got to be pretty proud that many kids were willing to make the sacrifice to be part of the team this year.
You've got to make football fun. That's my philosophy. I've had people in my life, in my football life, who said, well, you got to win. Obviously, you've got to win. If I don't win, I don't keep my job.
Right.
But you've also got to make it fun for the kids and want them to be there. We gain new kids every year who probably never played football. And some of them contribute, some of them don't. Some of them just want to be on the team. But we take pride in that. And we always have the speech, maybe the first or second day of 2-a-days, even without pads on yet, that football's not for everybody. We'll all respect you just as much if you want to just walk away. I can tell you, through the years, especially the last 3 years, we've only had a couple who have walked away. They still want to be a part of what we're doing.
That means you've got a positive program that people want to be a part of. All right, let's talk about the schedule coming up here. Your scrimmage is when against who?
We're this Thursday at Columbia Central, 6 o'clock. Clinton's there along with East Jackson, so it's a good one for us. Columbia Central's a bigger school, not quite on the scale of Blissfield, but that size. And then Clinton's loaded this year. They didn't lose much from last year, so that'll be a good test, and that was a good scrimmage for us last year. East Jackson's down a little bit, but, you do what you do. You scrimmage, you scrimmage.
And you get your kids on tape.
Yes,
and then
exactly.
You can spend the weekend breaking it down and really have a productive Monday and Tuesday practice as you prepare for your first game, which, again, is against Britton Deerfield. I have a friend who lives over there that says they're going to be really good again this year. They were really good last year. Now, they lost some key players, as everybody does, but you talked about the confidence as far as turning that first outcome around. I don't look for the Comets to be intimidated by anybody this year.
No, and you can see that in our kids, and we try to keep that down. We want to be confident, but you don't want to be cocky and arrogant at the same time. But our kids walk around like, hey, we're going to walk in and step on every field and walk into every game like we're going to win. And right there is half the battle, having the confidence to do that.
Let's talk about the Big 8 Conference for a second. It's one of my favorite football conferences. So many rivalries every week. And the fact that you've managed to keep it together all of these years is really fun. If you could get out of your coaching shoes and be a sportscaster for a minute, just objectively looking at the Big 8, who are some of the teams to beat in that conference this year?
Reading always is. We always talk about Reading. And Springport's got a lot coming back. Daniel Bryan kid at quarterback and the Frizzell kid at wide receiver. Homer's loaded. Homer's got big kids. our game last year was not close, but it wasn't because of talent. That team's going to be tough, and they worry me. Up and down in Concord, I've heard Concord's got kids coming in from Albion, so they're going to be up there. Max is a good guy who just got the job this year, Max Clark. But up and down, Quincy's got good kids. The Jimmy King kid at fullback, he's a tough. I'd love to have that kid in our system. They, obviously run the same system we do. But up and down, the conference is pretty solid again this year.
Looking forward to seeing high school football again. There's nothing like it. Those Friday night lights are pretty special. And Coach, congratulations. I know you're not resting on your laurels. You're right in the middle of this. But for the fact that you turned that team around last year, got the 7 wins, best of luck this year, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Go get them. Coach Pelham, the scrimmage is Thursday night at Columbia Central. And then their first game will be versus Britton Deerfield. And is that home or away?
That's home.
You got a home game on August 30th against Britton Deerfield. Good luck, Coach.
Thanks, sir.